The assembly lines have gone silent. As of 0600 this morning, production of America's most advanced weapons systems has stopped. This is not a drill. It is not a strike. It is a strategic kill switch, flipped from half a world away. Is this the checkmate move America never saw coming? The Pentagon is in a state of controlled panic. An urgent, classified alert was blasted to every major defense contractor across the United States just before dawn. Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, Northrop Grumman. The message was brutally simple. All inbound shipments of processed rare earth elements are suspended indefinitely. The supply chain has been severed. This isn't a minor disruption. It is a full-spectrum halt. The magnets that guide the fins on a Tomahawk missile, they require neodymium. The advanced radar systems of the F-35 fighter jet, they are inert without terbium and dysprosium. The Aegis combat system, the shield of the U.S. Navy, is blind without a constant supply of gallium and yttrium. Every single one of these critical minerals comes from one place: China. For years, strategists warned of this vulnerability. They wrote papers. They testified before Congress. They screamed from the rooftops that placing the foundation of Western military power in the hands of its primary strategic competitor was an act of generational insanity. Beijing controls over 80% of the world's rare earth mining and a staggering 95% of the far more critical processing stage. It was a loaded gun held to America's head, and today, the trigger was pulled. But intelligence sources inside the DIA and CIA are now reporting a shocking new dimension to this crisis. This was not Beijing's idea. This economic decapitation strike, according to 3 separate high-level intelligence leaks, was conceived, planned, and orchestrated by the Islamic Republic of Iran. Re-hook. A new front has just been opened in the shadow war, and not a single shot was fired. How did a regional power like Iran convince a superpower like China to risk open economic warfare with the United States? The answer lies in a secret pact and a strategy of asymmetric warfare that has just been brutally perfected. This is the culmination of the 25-year cooperation agreement signed between Beijing and Tehran in 2021. Publicly, it was a simple economic deal: Iranian oil in exchange for Chinese investment. But privately, it contained military and strategic clauses that were never meant to see the light of day. It was a pact aimed squarely at dislodging American power, and it outlined a new doctrine of warfare fought not with tanks and jets, but with shipping manifests and mineral export licenses. Iran knows it cannot survive a direct military confrontation with the United States. Its playbook has always been one of exploiting vulnerabilities, attacking oil tankers in the Strait of Hormuz, using proxy militias to bleed American forces in the Middle East. And now, they have weaponized globalization itself. They identified America's single greatest industrial weakness and convinced their powerful new partner to exploit it. For China, the risk is calculated. For Iran, it is the ultimate move in a long-running insurgency against the West. The immediate fallout is catastrophic. Sources on the factory floor at the Lima Army tank plant in Ohio report that the M1 Abrams assembly line, which was running 24/7 to backfill depleted NATO stocks, will be completely idle by the end of the week. The cost is not just strategic, it is financial. Estimates are already projecting a loss of over $250 million per day across the defense industrial base. Thousands of highly skilled workers are being told to stay home. The silence from the White House is deafening. Behind the scenes, the National Security Council has been in a rolling, non-stop emergency session for the last 12 hours. The options are grim. Diplomatic channels to Beijing have been met with a sterile, bureaucratic denial, claiming the halt is due to internal environmental and logistical reviews. It's a lie, and everyone knows it. There is no short-term solution. The United States has no significant domestic capacity for processing rare earth minerals. Efforts to build it have been slow, underfunded, and fought by environmental groups for years. It would take a minimum of 5 to 10 years to build a resilient, independent supply chain. Iran and China know this. Their attack was timed to absolute perfection, designed to cripple American military readiness at a moment of maximum global instability. Re-hook. But the physical supply chain was only phase 1. At precisely 0900 Eastern Standard Time, as the Pentagon was still reeling from the mineral embargo, a second, invisible attack began. A coordinated cyber assault is now underway, targeting the very logistics networks that manage what's left of the military's parts and munitions. This is not a brute force shutdown. It's far more insidious. A senior Cyber Command official described it as injecting chaos directly into the system's bloodstream. Shipping manifests for critical components are being subtly altered. A pallet of Javelin missile guidance systems, leaving a depot in Pennsylvania, is suddenly rerouted to a base in Alaska. Inventory databases at naval shipyards are being corrupted, showing critical parts as being in stock when the shelves are, in fact, empty. It is a death by 1,000 cuts, designed to induce paralysis. It magnifies the physical disruption exponentially, making it impossible for commanders to know what they actually have and where it is. The digital fingerprints, while heavily masked, bear the hallmarks of a specific unit, the IRGC's infamous Shahab-e-Sevam Cyber Warfare Division. They are adding friction to every single gear of the American war machine, grinding it to a halt from the inside out. The implications are terrifying. What happens if a crisis erupts in the Taiwan Strait tomorrow? Or if North Korea makes a move? The United States military, for the first time since the Second World War, cannot guarantee its ability to sustain a high-intensity conflict. Its industrial heart has been stopped, and its logistical nervous system is under attack. While generals and politicians scramble for a response, analysts are digging deeper into the combined cyber and economic data, trying to map the full scope of the assault. They are searching for the enemy's next move, the telltale signs of Phase 3. And just minutes ago, a junior analyst at the National Security Agency, sifting through terabytes of corrupted logistics data from the port of Long Beach, found something that made his blood run cold. It was a fragment of malicious code, hidden deep within the scheduling software for automated crane operations. It wasn't erasing data or rerouting shipments. It was a logic bomb, a piece of code designed to activate at a specific time and perform a single, devastating action. Command every single automated crane to simultaneously drop its cargo. The analyst's discovery was just the tip of the iceberg. The logic bomb wasn't just in Long Beach. It was everywhere. A dormant threat embedded in the core software of every major automated port in the United States, set to trigger in unison. The objective was clear: a single, coordinated act of industrial sabotage designed to shatter the arteries of American commerce in a single afternoon. The financial damage would be in the hundreds of billions. The physical cleanup would take months. But as the NSA frantically issued kill switches and alerts to port authorities nationwide, a horrifying new question began to form. Why go to such elaborate lengths for a one-time act of destruction? What if shattering the system wasn't the final goal? What if the real attack was designed to happen during the chaos? REHOK. That's when a second call came into the National Security Council, this one from the FBI's Counterintelligence Division at the Port of Los Angeles. Amid the unfolding panic, as operators scrambled to shut down the cranes, a lone analyst monitoring satellite heat signatures noticed an anomaly. One ship, a Panamanian-flagged freighter called the Oceanic Virtue, was generating a thermal bloom inconsistent with its manifest. It was taking on a heavy, energy-dense cargo at a non-designated berth, even as the rest of the port was in lockdown. There was no paperwork, no authorization. It was a ghost operation, happening in plain sight. The physical attack on the ports wasn't the main event. It was the distraction. It was the magician's left hand, drawing the world's attention, while the right hand performed the real trick. The cyber attack that corrupted the inventory databases wasn't just about creating confusion. It was about hiding the movement of specific, high-value assets. This was Phase 3. A targeted, physical exfiltration of American strategic technology under the perfect cover of a national crisis. What was in that container? The question hung in the air of the Situation Room. Within 20 minutes, they had a tentative answer, and it was worse than anyone could have imagined. The container's last known location, before the data was corrupted, was a secure transfer yard originating from the Naval Research Laboratory in Dahlgren, Virginia. Its contents: 2 prototype magnetohydrodynamic drive units. It sounds like science fiction, because it almost is. This technology is the holy grail of naval warfare. It would render an entire generation of anti-submarine warfare obsolete overnight. A fleet of submarines equipped with these drives could appear anywhere, at any time, with near total impunity. It's a strategic game-changer on the level of the stealth bomber, and it was now sitting in the cargo hold of an unregistered ship steaming towards the Pacific. The White House now faced a dilemma, with no good options. The ship was in international waters. To board it would be a blatant act of piracy, giving China and Iran the moral high ground and a massive propaganda victory. They could frame the U.S. as a rogue state, attacking civilian shipping lanes. They could even claim the cargo was simply commercial electronics, and the U.S. would have no way to prove otherwise without revealing the existence of the MHD program. The alternative was to let it go, to allow America's most advanced naval secret to be delivered directly to their primary adversary. Years of research, billions of dollars, and the future of naval dominance, gone. There was a third option. The darkest one. Sink the ship. A single torpedo from a Virginia-class submarine. No witnesses. The technology would be lost to the depths of the Pacific, safe from enemy hands. But it would mean knowingly murdering the 24 civilian crew members on board. It would be a war crime, committed in secret, to protect a secret. As the debate raged, the investigation on the ground was uncovering an even more disturbing layer to the conspiracy. This wasn't just a remote cyber operation. The longshoremen who loaded the container onto the Oceanic Virtue weren't the regular Union crew. Security footage showed them arriving in a separate van half an hour before the chaos began. Their port access credentials, which had been authenticated by the system, were found to be sophisticated forgeries. They were a ghost team, professionals. After loading the container, they didn't clock out. They simply vanished. This was the work of a foreign intelligence service, with human assets on American soil. They had an inside team to physically secure the prize, while their cyber team burned the system down around them. The sheer audacity of the operation was breathtaking. It was a perfectly synchronized, multi-domain assault, combining the deniability of a cyber attack with the brute force effectiveness of a special forces raid. And it had worked.